to Fluent and Chill. I'm Anthony K. I'm here as always with Chilltown Hoops' own Jermaine J. How you doing, man?
What's up, brother?
We got a good one. We We always have a good one, but I mean, we got a good one.
Oh, it's basketball. Absolutely.
It's about how, we're in the thick of things, and some teams, we talk about the cream kind of rising to the top. There's some players I want to talk about, specifically Demar Derozan, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons. So we got a power five of players we want to talk about. Speaking of power five, we're going to do who our top five power rankings are in the NBA right now and why. But first, we're going to start on a down note.
Uh-oh.
I know that teams go through ebbs and flows. I know that teams have bad days. Some teams are in rebuilding phases. They're gathering draft picks. Their team is young. Oklahoma City lost a game not to the Nets or the Suns or the Bucks or the Warriors. They lost a game to Memphis. The Memphis Grizzlies, who, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of players I like on the Grizzlies. They're not known for their, historically, their scoring punch. They lost a game by 73 points. I just want to say it again because I say it and I don't believe it. I saw it.
One more time, Tone. One more time for the people in the cheap seats. How many did they lose by?
73 points. That's 3/4 of basketball. On some nights, that is 3/4 of basketball. Okay, some nights it's a half, but 70, like if, about 100 points, look, we bounce between 90, 110. But let's say over the whole history of the NBA, 100 points is kind of that benchmark. That's 3/4 of basketball they lost by. I'm assuming you weren't watching that game. I don't know anyone who was actually watching that game until maybe they got, like when you see a blow, you tend to turn it off. This might have been one where people turned it on.
I actually did, Tom.
Did you turn?
I actually did turn. When I saw that they was down by 60, I turned it on. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? How are you 60 in the hole? But I will tell you this, Tom, because I know this might sound ridiculous because a lot of people aren't paying attention to Memphis, but Memphis, number one in rebounding in the NBA. Number two in the NBA in blocks. I think they average the most points in the NBA in the key, not in the paint, but in the key. So they're one of the best defensive teams in the game. They're one of the best interior scoring teams in the game. And in addition to them playing defense, Oklahoma City isn't exactly rolling in with scorers. I like Josh Giddey. He looks like I don't know if he's going to be a star, but I like Josh Giddey. I think he's a solid rookie. He kind of reminds me, when I watch him, he looks like a lesser version of Brent Barry. That's kind of who he reminds me of. Shea, I think that Shea could have used Doc Rivers maybe one Doc Rivers and Sam Cassell. I think he could have used them for 1 or 2 more seasons. I think Doc really regretted I don't think he regretted it. I take that back. I think he hated having to give up Shea. But they got Leonard out of the deal. But if he had to choose, I don't think he would have given up Shea if he didn't have to, because I think Doc loved him. And I think Shea could have used Doc for a little while longer. With all of that being said, Tone, just so you know, they lost by 73. They were down by as many as 75. I want to put that out there. That's not a situation where, they only lost by 73. They were down by 75. And when you lose by that many, and if we're going to put this in perspective, Tone, if you go on a 70-0 run, you're still in the hole. I just want to put that on.
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that's.
I just want to put that in the hole. We go 3 straight quarters where they don't score, and we score 70 straight. We still losing. Those are the kind of games where one of two things happen. Either you just go, we have no explanation for this, and we're not even going to talk about it. We're just going to ball this one up and throw it in the garbage. Or we have a big problem here, and this needs to get handled, and it needs to get handled right now, because these are the kind of games that turn into games that get coaches fired and players traded.
This is how long this record that they just broke for the 73-point loss. The previous record was set in 1991. A 30-year-old record, which was 68 points. It was Cleveland and Miami. It was a 148-80. They describe it as a mauling of the Miami Heat on December 17th. Oddly enough, in December as well. So this game was 152-79. Listen, I'm not surprised. Like, when you're a young team that's just kind of, like I said, stockpiling draft picks, you're going to lose games by 50. It's going to happen. Someone's going to get hot. Teams get hot. And typically we've seen teams score 150, but then the other team is also hot and they score like 120, and it's a 20, 30-point loss, and that's bad, but whatever. Yeah. We've also seen teams go cold, and it reminds me of a game that I want to say it was 98, 99. Jordan had just retired for the second time from the Bulls. Pippen was gone. Everybody was gone. People don't remember this one, but the Miami Heat were also involved in that one, and they beat the Bulls. The Bulls scored 49 points in a game. For the game, that was set the record in the modern shot clock era. Set the record for lowest amount of points and lowest field goal percentage. That, by the way, still stands today. That team was horrible. But I think it was like 87-49 or something. So it doesn't seem as bad, right? Because it's only 31 points, right? Both teams weren't that great. It was at the time when league scoring was almost at its all-time low, I believe, that year. It was a strike shortened season. There was a lot of reasons. But still, 49 points in the game, so I kind of say, well, at least OKC scored 79. I don't know if I'm trying to be positive about it.
Well, think about this.
But my point is, both teams were kind of cold, right? It was 80-49. It doesn't seem as bad, but to get one team hot scoring 150 and the other team scoring 79,
well,
that's rare.
The idea of scoring 150, that's a completely different subject when you're talking about defense. But to get 70 in the hole, that means that at some point, numerous points during the game, a team goes on like a 15-0 run, then another 16-0 run, then another 20-0 run, then another 18-0 run, where you don't score for quarters, not minutes, Tone. You don't score for quarters. That is unacceptable, man.
It's you said it gets people fired, it gets players traded, but
it does.
Is it?
Yeah.
You think is there going to be a change coming in OKC? Because I don't think there is.
No, well, not right now, but it's like I said a second ago, where one of two things happen. Either you ball this thing up and you throw it away and let's get back to work. Because they won last night. They beat Detroit. So they won last night. And they actually looked really good against Detroit. It's either that, or if this loss comes after you've been blown out 5 or 6 other times like this, not by 70, but you've been blown out, I don't know, in the last 12 games, you've been blown out 3 times by 35. And then this loss right here, 70 is essentially the final straw where, you know what, we're not going anywhere with this group. We got to start this thing over because this is not going to work.
Yeah, because when you're a young team, look, you're expected to lose, but you're expected to kind of at least put forth an effort. And then there will be a point where the coach is going to be held accountable for them at least giving effort. And there needs, and in the jury, in the court of public opinion, people are going to say, well, they're not playing for him. He needs to go because his job is to make them play hard and develop the players. We're going to lose. We understand that, but we can't lose like this. So yeah, so you're right. If that loss was either at the end or if it was the beginning, like if they went off and lost 20 in a row after that one, I'd agree with you. I think in this case, they're kind of like, hey, just unfortunately, it's one of those bruises we have to take while we're growing up, right? Everybody scrapes their knee and falls, and this one you just happen to fall out of a tree and land on your head.
Yes.
But hey, you got up and walked away from it. So, you're good. All right. So let's get out of OKC. That was just yeah. For the record, I said 80-49. That Bulls Heat game was 82-49. Not that makes a big difference, but all right. I want to get into our Power 5. So let's go from the bad to the good. A lot of good teams in the NBA. We always talk about there's at least half a dozen teams that are in the, if not a dozen teams this year that are in it, at least trying to win a championship. So if you had to break down your top 5, who are those kind of top 5? So give me the list, and then and then I'll give you my list, and then let's talk about why, if there's any differences as to why you have them where you have them.
So I'm going to start at 5, and that 5 is going to be Milwaukee Bucks. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are rounding into shape. I think that they're getting healthy. I think Giannis is as good as he's ever been, and he's improving as the season goes on. He got he got beat up a little bit earlier in the season, and I think that they sat him for a calf injury. I think it was more of a precaution than anything. I think they sat him. Losing Brook Lopez is going to be big for them, but getting DeMarcus Cousins, which I don't think is going to be that big a deal, but I think that he's going to help. I do think that that's going to help them. So I'm going to go with Milwaukee at number 5, but that's going to change, Tone, because I think that they're going to be at the top of the East at some point. At number 4, I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Nets. I get a lot of heat for this, and I do think that they would be better with Kyrie Irving, but I just think that he masks a lot of their, if he were to be on the unit, I think he masks a lot of what their problem is, which is them being thin in the middle. And it doesn't help that, James Harden hasn't been that good in terms of shooting the basketball in the meat and potatoes of the game. So I think that they look good right now, but these things that they have, these deficiencies that they have, are really going to get exposed later on, no doubt about it. At number 3, I think Chicago. I personally think Chicago is the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. I do. I mean, they won last night without DeRozan being in protocol, but defensively, this team is very sound. I was very much questioning what they were going to do defensively, because last season, Tony, they were an average defensive team. That was without DeRozan. That was without Ball. That was without Caruso. And then with Vooch in the lineup, his ability to rebound, they answered the call. They answered the bell for me as a defense team. I already knew who they were going to be offensively, but they answered the bell for me. And I think that they got a really good team, and they have no question in my mind a contender. At number 2, I think it's Phoenix. I'm sorry. I think Phoenix is number 2. I want to put Phoenix ahead of Golden State, but it's like this, Tone. And the reason why I say that right now, because I look at Golden State and I think that once they get Wiseman back, that's going to fill a hole that they didn't have. And I think that that's going to make them superior to Phoenix. But I love everything that Phoenix is doing with Mikal Bridges, his ability to defend and get out in the open floor. Ayton, who, Tone, you still, I feel like I still got to sell you Ayton. I don't think you want to, I don't think you on the hook yet. I think I still got to sell you Ayton. And you might be buying him a little bit, but you're not completely on the hook with Ayton.
When we started talking about Ayton, it was like, I'll use one of your analogies. He told, man, I got this girl, I want to introduce you. And I'm like, nah. And then like you kept talking about it. I was like, well, maybe. And now it's kind of like, all right, well, set something up and let's see. So I'm at that let's see stage with him. But it's progressed. It has progressed.
I still got to do some more homework, but I really dig what Phoenix is doing. I think that they're right now. I think that they're the second best team in the Western Conference, and that's right behind the Golden State Warriors, who, Steph could be hot and cold. And the thing that I worry about with them is I worry about them having to worry about Steph as a long ball shooter only. I think that getting Klay back, I think that he's going to help them out. I don't think Klay's going to come back playing. I know you saw him, Tone, and I know that you're excited about what you saw, but I don't think he's going to come back playing at that elite level. We're talking about a dude who hasn't played in the NBA game for 2 years, and it's going to take him some time to get acclimated to the NBA game. I think the difference with them is going to be when Wiseman gets healthy and they get him in the middle and he becomes that force that they need defensively, because they already got a good defensive team. But I think that when they get him back, I think they're going to be better. So that's the 5 that I think is the best teams in the NBA right now.
I'm not going to show you my notes because it's a bunch of chicken scratch. Or I'm going to show you my notes, but you just to prove it to people. I don't know if I'll zoom in on that later, but I hate to say it, but I have the exact same 5 in the exact same order. I wanted to say like, and the Lakers number 1, but I'm being realistic. Right. And you touched on a lot of the points. I got Bucks at 5. Still kind of rounding out, that soreness. I think you're right. I think it's precautionary. I think they get it. They've won a championship, so now they know what they need to do. They're going to play it smart and get ready for the playoffs. The Nets, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought they built a team based on Harden playing like Harden, which he's not, KD being KD, which he is, and Kyrie, being Kyrie and just outscoring people like 152 to 70.
Right. 152
but
to
2 to
120.
147. Yeah.
Right.
That's what they built the team around. And they gave away all that interior presence. And because of that, they're really thin, but they also don't have Harden playing like Harden. Right. Don't get me wrong. He's still a star player, but it's not the same guy we're used to seeing.
Right.
Some of the rule changes, he's I'm not saying he can't handle the rule change, just has to, he's still adapting to them. And then Kyrie not playing. So you've got kind of all three of those kind of strikes against them, which is why, and still I have them number 4. The Bulls, I agree with you as well. We both had questions about their defense. I got to tell you, DeMar DeRozan, we're going to talk about him here in a second. I'm really impressed with the defense he's played this year because I watched him for a long time in Toronto. And it was like, just where's the D? Like, just you have the athleticism, you have quick feet, you have good hands. Why doesn't that translate into at least, average defense? And he's playing better than average defense this year. So kudos to him. The Suns, again, I'm with you. And I'll tell you why I have them number 2. I see the Suns as, look, the Suns are complete, right? They're a complete team right now. I think Bridges got a little banged up, but the Suns are, what we've seen of them is their complete team. Then I looked at the Warriors, and I'm going through this quickly because, like I said, you touched pretty much every point in the exact same order. When I see the Warriors, I see a team that is going to get Clay back. And I think you're right. I don't think he comes back at 100%. But if you get Clay as a spot-up shooter who can, I think his defense isn't going to be as good either, obviously. But even 80% of his defense with those, like, he's still going to be able to hit big shots. That adds another shooter to that team that's already dangerous. Then you bring in Wiseman, who's a big, who can play defense inside, can get up and down the court. Let's not forget, again, assuming he's healthy, which in the style that they play, man, he's going to have some great opportunities. They're not going to be doubling Wiseman down low. They're not going to be able to run with him in transition because you got to watch out for Clay and Poole and Curry. Like the spacing, because of what those guys bring to the table, he's going to get easy dunks, easy alley-oops. It's going to be fun to watch. And so they're number 1. So we got the exact same 5. I don't think there's any really, like, the only team that surprises me is not in that conversation. If we talked at the beginning of the season, it's probably the Lakers. But you've got teams, I still think, like on the bubble, I think you got a team like Philadelphia, Utah. We don't talk about those guys enough. There's those kinds of teams. So, but I think you nailed the 5. So let's talk about specifically. We had mentioned a couple of players, and I want to start with DeMar DeRozan, because I know that he's out now, like you mentioned with his protocols there. But when he came, we talked about what you were going to get from DeMar DeRozan. 20-something a game, strong mid-range, good locker room guy, leadership, those types of things. Defense that was a little What has been the big? Is it the defense? If we take the defense out, because we know that I think the defense is the biggest. What's the biggest surprise outside of defense that you've seen from DeMar this season?
He just looks more in control of his game than he's ever been. Not just defensively, offensively too. He just looks sharp. He looks like the spots that he normally gets to, it almost seems effortless. He's healthy, which also helps, because he was a little banged up when he was in San Antonio.
Yeah.
His ability to get to the rim, he's still athletic. I had somebody say to me, DeMar DeRozan was never a top 10 player. Okay, that's fine. But DeMar DeRozan was a top 15 player for a long time. He was absolutely between 10 and 15 for a lot of years. There was a couple of years where DeMar DeRozan made the All-NBA team, where you can make the argument that he was a top 15 player. I'm not surprised at what he's doing in terms of his game. I am surprised at what the Bulls had done, like I said, Tone, because I wasn't sure about who they were defensively. And with this unit, as good as they are defensively, all he had to do was just be solid defensively. I think that's all he had to do. And I think that's what he's been doing. I've always had a problem with guys who are that athletic, who don't defend at a high level. Because at the end of the day, Tone, I can teach you footwork. I can teach you how to block out. I can teach you how to slip block outs. Defense and rebounding is one thing and one thing only at the end of the day. Effort. Drop your ass, get your feet moving, get your hands busy. And when I got a supremely athletic guy, I don't understand why this guy wouldn't be an elite defender.
No, I'm with you. Like I said, I think a couple of things went against DeMar in his early years. One, being in Toronto, people really didn't pay attention to Toronto until they got good. And then when they got good, when did you see them? Well, you saw them in the playoffs getting smoked by LeBron James and the Cavs. And let's be honest, in those early playoff series, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan didn't play that well, didn't shoot very well. And so that I think that kind of overshadowed the those really good regular seasons that they were having that he was having. And like I said, and the question marks about defense. He goes to San Antonio, right? Different system, different kind of setup. I don't think that was a good fit for anybody. I was really surprised, to be honest with you, that's where like, I get it, he got traded there, but I'm surprised that they didn't, kind of get him and then move him right away. I'm surprised he actually lasted there. And so here he is in Chicago, and we thought, okay, it's the downside of his career. I think he's looks better than ever. And I don't again, not as athletic as he was in the beginning, but I mean, I think he's playing his best basketball.
Well, number one, I don't think it's the downside of his career, Tone. I think we're in year 13 now. Yeah, I think we're in year 13, and he's 33. He only played 1 year at USC. And I think that he's in the middle of I think he's got 2 more years at this level. He may be on the other side of his prime.
I just think what I'm saying is I think people saw what happened in San Antonio and they thought it was going to be the downside. And like I said, but I think he's playing the best basketball he's ever played.
Now, I will tell you this, Tone, we can't discount how emotional he was about going to San Antonio. And I think that's affected his game.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that affected his game. That was a championship caliber team. And for him to get moved in the middle of them, going after a championship and being a championship contender, and for him to get moved to a San Antonio team that wasn't very good, and then to watch them win it, I'm sure that was difficult for him. I'm certain.
No, I 100%. Listen, he was one of the few players who said, "I love Toronto. Toronto has treated me like family. It's home." He re-signed. He had no intentions of leaving. I don't know if you know the story, but him and Kyle Lowry didn't even talk. They didn't even talk their first season because Kyle was like, I'm in. He got traded from Houston. He's like, I'm here for like a minute and then I'm out.
Right.
And then they realized, oops, maybe I'm going to be here a while. They trade away. It's funny. They trade away because it was DeMar, Kyle Lowry, and Rudy Gay. It was kind of their big three, if you want to call it. And they weren't winning. They were terrible. Masai Ujiri's like, we're going to blow this up. We're trading all of them. Well, they trade away Rudy Gay and they get a package of like, I don't even know, Gervais Vasquez and some other pieces. I think maybe PJ Tucker might have been in that. But either way, they get a bunch of guys that you're not going to write home about these guys. But all of a sudden they start winning and like a lot. And now Masai's like, well, I can't really trade away DeMar and Kyle. They're winning. Those two become best friends, like brothers. Like if you hear them talk, DeMar's like, if you ask my mom, Kyle's her other son. If you ask Kyle's mom, she'll say, I'm her other son. Like they became like family.
This thing's working.
So now you got a city you love. And let me tell you, a city that loves you. I am telling you, people will fight if you said anything bad about DeMar DeRozan in Toronto. Okay. So a city you love, a city that loves you, your best friend now on this team, and you're winning. Like, let's be honest, people forget this. Forget the Kawhi season for a second, right? Forget when they traded before. They have more wins than Golden State in the regular season. Like over that span of 4 or 5 years, whatever it was. People forget how regular season good that team was. So now your team is winning. You think you're going for a championship. Your best friend, you love the city loves you. It's like the perfect thing. And it's, there's the story that, Masai says, look, I'm not looking to trade you. Maybe true, maybe false, but you get a call from San Antonio that says, hey, we'll give you Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard for DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl. You're making that trade 10 times out of 10. You have to make that trade. So they make the trade, and then you're right. He goes to San Antonio. They're not good. Toronto wins. It's emotional. I get it. Listen, he was I understand. So it's good to see him back in Chicago. It's good to see him doing well. I wanted to bring it up because I think, look, he should be, and he's not getting any, but he should be. I don't think he's going to win it. I think he should be in when you're having that conversation of MVP. I think he deserves to hear his name. I don't think he's going to win it, I don't. I think there's too many players ahead of him. But I'd like to hear his name.
Whoa, Tone. What I don't want to do is I don't want to because it make it sound like you downplaying it. DeMar DeRozan is a legit MVP contender. Absolutely. No, he's not a guy that we're gonna mention his name because this is a great story. No, DeMar DeRozan.
No. I mean, it's because he's playing great.
Right. He's playing like a top 5 player right now in the NBA. He's absolutely doing everything that all the other MVP candidates are doing. And on top of that, he's been a solid defender, which is even better. And like I just told you, Tone, I think that Chicago is the best team in the Eastern Conference. So that's going to matter.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Absolutely going to matter. So,
but but I feel like maybe the way I said, like I'm downplaying it, but I'm saying it because you know how the NBA works.
Yeah. And
because he's not that name, I guess I'm putting it out there. He's not going to win it because there's a 4 or 5 guys that they say these guys are going to win. And but you're right. He should be. And I guess my point is he's not in the conversation and he should be.
Well, let me ask you this question, Tone. If the season ended right now, who are we talking about as league MVP? If the season ended today,
Steph, Jokic, Embiid,
KD.
DeMar, KD and DeMar.
KD and DeMar. Okay, so let's take Jokic out because Denver is trash. They're at the bottom of the playoff picture. Let's take Embiid out too. And the reason why we're taking Embiid out is because I think Philadelphia is 5th or 6th in the East.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, so we're
taking them out
in the standings.
So that leaves 3 people. That leaves KD, that leaves Steph, and that leaves DeRozan.
Yeah. Okay.
That leaves DeRozan. So we got 3 guys, and DeRozan's got a really good shot at winning league MVP if he continues to do what he's doing.
Right. Well, you said if it ended today.
If it ended
today, yeah, he's getting some votes. And I don't know. Maybe it's in the back of my head that I don't hear anybody saying DeMar DeRozan has a legit shot at MVP, and they should.
Absolutely, they should. And absolutely, they should, Tone. No doubt.
So from one MVP candidate to the one who I think is probably going to win, Steph. Mm-hmm. He's 16 threes. I think I'm going with you. He's 16 threes away from passing Ray Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He is going in his career, like, let's be honest, he's still got years left. He is going to obliterate that record. He's going to like John Stockton assist, run away with it where no one's even like, we're never getting that. We had talked about it and I said, oh, it would be great TV if he did it on Christmas Day. 16, he might do it this week.
I think he's going to do it in Philadelphia against his brother. That's in 2 games. They play. I think I forgot who they play next, but then they play Philadelphia. Today is Tuesday. I think they play Philadelphia on Friday. I think that he'll do it in Philadelphia on Friday against his brother.
So you think he gets 8 and 8-ish?
Yes, he has 7 yesterday. So
yeah, I think it'd be nice. Dad probably be there, mom be there, yeah. Brothers there.
Absolutely.
Philly.
So we're talking about a guy who
I don't know where Ray Allen is these days, but maybe they could fly him to Philly.
Well, you just mentioned it in terms of the John Stockton record. I think Steph has 2, maybe 3 more years tops at this level. That's not before he retires, Tone, just at this level.
At this level, yeah.
And then I think that after that, I think he can play another 2, 3 more years as what Ray Allen was in Boston, where he's just, or even in Miami, where he was just a long ball shooter. And if he does that, we're talking about a guy who we're looking at maybe 3,500 to close to 4,000 threes. Good luck catching that. I don't think I'll be alive to see the next guy to do that.
Because just think about it. The great thing about what he does, right, to your point is, okay, he's doing this at a ridiculous level right now. Mm-hmm. But you're right. When he gets 35, 36, 37, he can kind of play the role like his dad did. Just come in and he doesn't have to jump over anybody. He doesn't have to dunk on it. He just got to shoot some threes. And we know no one's ever done it better. So why not? Like, if you're a team, if you're the Warriors or any other team, you wouldn't want a player who can come in and hit 40 some odd 50% of their threes. Yeah, I'll take that any day of the week. So it's the Trailblazers he's got on Wednesday night. Then he's got the 76ers is that Saturday 8:30 game in Philly. Okay, if not, then it's probably Monday night against the Pacers. Mm-hmm. But I think if he could get it, like I think you're right. I think if he can get it in Philly with his brother there, I think that's actually not as good as my Christmas Day one, but he's shooting too many to take it another 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever it is until Christmas. Did I just say it's 2 weeks till Christmas?
It is.
Wow, time is going by quick. All right, so that's gonna be a special record, right? Like again, we both agree he's getting it and he's probably running away with it.
Yep.
Do you think, like, have we peaked on how many threes can be taken in an NBA game? Like, is this going to be this 35, 36 a game that it's going to be really hard for someone to break that record? Or like, are we going to hit another plateau like 40, 50 a game and then we see this record broken in 10 years, 20, 15 years?
Golden State has shown that you can win as a jump shooting team. So they've shown that. And what the league has now become is the league has become a little more athletic. So with it being more athletic, you're seeing bigger guys shooting the long ball even more. So that's going to get implemented more, not just in regular teams, but even in playoff teams and in championship teams. Now, I don't think that that's going to be higher now, but I think as time goes on, I think it's going to fluctuate, Tone. I think we're going to move back into the big man getting involved in the game, but I think he's going to shoot the long ball a little more. I think he's going to shoot the long ball a little more, and I think that that's going to open up the game. And the reason why I think it's going to open up the game is because he's going to get back involved in the game on the block, and then he's going to stretch the defense also, like Embiid, like Joker. And then we're going to get bigger guys like him, Joker, Kevin Durant, guys who just spread the floor and just bombs away. And the fact that the Golden State Warriors won the NBA championship and proved that a jump shooting team can win it, I don't think this is going away at any time, Tom.
Okay. But do you think it's going to, so like if I go back 20 years, they were shooting like 10, 15 3-pointers a game. Now it's 35, 36, some odd. Do you think there's another jump
level
where it goes to 50 a game? Like is 50, is that crazy?
I don't think that well, if you take into consideration, if it's 35 now, 50 is 15 more. So that's only what, 2 or 3 more a quarter? If two, you're talking about 2 or 3 more a quarter.
Four a quarter gives you 4, 8, 12. I've got to do my math. It's 16. Right. Yeah, there you go. So 3, 4 more. Yeah.
So 4 more gives you that's 4 more a game. And I'm pretty confident that you get these jump shooting teams who are really good, and this is working, like Golden State, especially when you're getting bigger guys, right? When you're getting bigger guys who can shoot the long ball, because that stretches the defense.
Right. Yeah, that center, you're not waiting for him to get down on the block sometimes. It's just he trails the play and it's just give it to him and he's shooting the 3. Yeah, fair enough.
I just don't. I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it's something that we could see in the coming years. I do.
So you brought up Embiid as one of those big guys who can shoot the 3. He's been kind of coming back around a little bit, even though there's still some, issues in Philly. When I say issues, I mean they're playing without, I guess there's technically their second best player in Ben Simmons. We'll get to him in a minute. What have you been seeing out of Embiid lately? Is this sustainable? Is he going to get the Sixers back into that kind of top 3 seed in the East?
Well, when I think about the Eastern Conference, I think about 3 teams. I think about Brooklyn, I think about Chicago, and I think about Milwaukee. Now, how does Philadelphia, because before the season started, I had Philadelphia as the 3rd seed. I didn't have Chicago that high. Chicago ended up becoming better than what I thought. When I look at this Philadelphia team, the difference, what's going on now is Embiid plays more closer to the basket, and that opens up his game where he can now shoot the mid-range. And he's cleaning glass too, Tone. And that's big for them. That is huge for them. Now, once they can get healthy, where they can get Tobias Harris healthy, and they can get that thing going. And I also think that once this Ben Simmons situation is over, I think that's a cloud that's been over them. I don't think it's hampering them, but it's something that's there. And I do think that it has affected them. But when I look at Joel Embiid and I look at what he's been doing, his game has been starting on the inside and it's been pushed out to the outside. That's when he's the most effective. And they play inside out with him coming outside more. And I think that that's just given them such a dynamic that they didn't have before because Embiid would play so far away from the basket. And now they're running the offense through him, and they just look so much more, in the words of my man Tone, they look so much more fluent right now.
More fluent. They do.
Absolutely.
They do. Yeah, 24, 11, and 4, something. Like he's putting up the numbers. I think he's missed, obviously, he always misses games. I think that's just gonna be a thing with Joel, is that we talked about this, I think last year he missed just a couple too many games to be out of the MVP conversation, which
he missed that 3 weeks. That's what killed him.
That's what killed. So I think that's all. I think you just got to accept it, that's just what's going to happen, because when he's on, right, he's dominant. So you got to, again, we talked about it before. He's not going to play enough games. His team's not going to be good enough. He's not going to be in the MVP conversation in terms of NBA standards. But like when you look at a player, he's still a top player in this league that
absolutely,
I look to him. And I think if they can make a trade, if they can bring in another couple of pieces, and Maxey is playing well for them, they've got some other guys doing some nice things, but again, you're not playing with I always say this, take any team and take away their number one or number two, they're not the same team, which is what we're seeing in Philadelphia, and that's right across the board. So I talk about Ben Simmons. So the Ben Simmons saga, I don't know. I don't want to get into his personal finances. However, you do hear, you hear the story come out that he's got to play because he needs money. I hate hearing stuff like that. And regular people are like, how can someone who makes millions of dollars be broke? And I just want to quickly touch on that. And then I want to talk about the rumor, Damian Lillard saying, hey, I want to play with Ben Simmons. And then what maybe a trade looks like between Philadelphia and Portland. So I guess I put it to everybody this way, whether it's NFL, NBA, it doesn't matter. You get paid a game check, right? It's actually worse than the NFL if you think about it, because you only get paid. So let's say you make 10 million. Now let me use a real number that's easy to do. There's 16, well, now there's 17 games. Let's say you get paid $17 million. Every game week, you get a check for $1 million for those 17 weeks. And that's it. You don't make any other money from your playing except for those 17 weeks. NBA, you get paid again to play. But here's the problem. They say, oh, you signed a $50 million deal. That $50 million is divided up over, or $100 million. That's divided up over 5 years, let's call it, to make math easy. Again, that's $20 million a year. People forget, but then they go and they buy a $20 million house. This isn't smart. I'm just telling you what happens. They buy a $20 million house. Well, now they got nothing. Now they're putting stuff on credit. And then you forget that there's property tax, income tax, and there's a certain lifestyle, right? A lot of these guys, private jets, yachts, these parties, the money goes quick. And then we forget that, again, they're not getting that $100 million in a lump sum. They're getting it in pieces. So now you've already spent $100 million, but you've only gotten 40 of it. Well, now you're in debt. And, and when debt is due, it doesn't matter who you are. You got to pay it.
Don't leave out, Tone, the most important part here, because you're talking from the perspective of a grown-up. You're not talking from the perspective of a kid too. Don't leave that part out. That's very important.
That's the other part. There's I wish I could have remembered the line because it would have been perfect, right? But Kanye West famously says, right, I got my first check and I went and bought some jewelry, right? Like, because I wanted to shine. Absolutely. That's the problem when you're 18, 19, 25. I'll tell you right now, I'm at that point where if I got the money, it'd last forever. But when I was 25, it was gone. It was gone. It was gone. So my point is, I wouldn't be surprised if that money is gone, because the way that they get that money and the way that people forget, like, $20 million. Do you know what I could do with $20 million? Yeah, you could live a lifetime, or you could spend it like that. Like that's the problem. You could do both.
So we'll start with, I believe Kanye said, I ain't even gonna act holier than thou. Know how? I went to Jacob with 25,000, and that's before I had a house. And I'll do it again because I want to be on 106 in Park pushing the Benz. So that's
100. You nailed it. Perfect. That's
absolutely a fact. But I also think, Tone, that this rhetoric, I don't think it's true. And the reason why I don't think it's true is because his agent, Rich Paul, I think that they sat down and they had a conversation that if you're going to sit, we have to be prepared for this. This isn't a situation where I'm not making money, and all of a sudden it's, oh no, what am I going to do? No, if he knew that he wanted to be traded, we actually had to sit down and have a conversation and go, well, if they're not going to pay you, this is what it's going to be for this time. And we have to be prepared for that financially. Now,
Can I pause you there?
pause.
Does Ben Simmons seem like the type that would listen? Because
He doesn't.
isn't that the knock? Isn't that the knock against him? He's not coachable. He doesn't listen. He wants to do things his own way. That was coming out of like pre-NBA. That was his draft kind of analysis was if he doesn't get his way, he gets upset and he's not a coachable guy.
But that's
Is that just on the court, you think?
And I do think that, I don't think that that's on the court. I think that translates. I think he's a young guy, and he's a young, immature guy who I honestly think, I've said this before, Tone, I think this is a situation in 5 years, maybe even in 10 years, where he's going to say, I should have kept my ass in Philadelphia and worked it out. I really think that he's going to think that. I really think that he's going to feel like that at some point, because that's a really good situation in Philadelphia with that team.
Just ask Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would have told you every time, right? We should have figured it
Absolutely.
out.
We should have figured it out. We would be way different in history had we figured that thing out. So, when I look at this Ben Simmons situation, it's a real tricky thing right now, Tone. It is. It's a real tricky thing.
So let's say this is true then. So Dame Lillard says, I want to play with Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia comes off there, asking for your entire roster and all your draft picks for the next 20 years. And they come up with a reasonable situation. What do you think that looks like? One, from a perspective, who you think, does Portland need to give up? And then how does that work in Portland with Dame and Ben Simmons? Like, does it even make sense?
Well, I'm looking at what Philadelphia has with Curry. I'm looking at what Philadelphia has with Maxey. So let's start, Tone, with who is off limits for Portland. Nobody is off limits for Portland except Dame Lillard. Everybody else is available on the roster.
Everybody else should be.
Everybody else is available on the roster. So if I'm looking at Portland, what does Philadelphia want that Portland has that they would be satisfied with? Well, you're giving away a superstar. More than likely, when you're giving away a star, I'm not going to get back what I'm asking for. But can I get at least 60 cents on the dollar? 70 cents on the dollar? Can I at least get that? Can I get that back? All right. So would I give up CJ? Would Philadelphia?
I think CJ is a must. I think it starts with CJ.
CJ is part of the deal. Okay, I'll take CJ is part of the deal. What else do I need? I think I'm straight in terms of defenders because Thibault is awesome defensively, right? I think Maxey is awesome defensive. I think Maxey is just getting better as time goes on. So, and I dig Shake. I dig Shake Milton. So I don't think that we might have to throw somebody else in, Tone, too, with Ben Simmons if we're going to move him. It can't just be Ben for this 3 guys. We might have to throw somebody else in on Philadelphia. So if I'm giving up CJ and you're going to give me Ben, how about you hand over Shake Milton too? And I'll give you CJ. And what else makes this deal work? CJ, I think, makes this deal.
So let me throw some names at you. Let me throw some names. You tell me which ones make sense. So obviously we talked about CJ. There's McLemore, Larry Nance Jr., Norman Powell. I always bring up. I don't know if they need a backup center in Nurkic.
Right.
Cody Zeller, perhaps. Tony Snell. Like, there's not. Listen, Portland's not good for a reason. There's not a lot of good pieces. Let's just be honest.
This thing works, Tone. I don't know if Philadelphia. I don't know if this thing. I don't know if this thing makes sense for us. In Philadelphia, I'm looking at Philadelphia and I'm looking at who they have, and I'm looking at who Portland has, and who can we bring over here? Who can we bring over here that's not Damian Lillard that makes a difference that Portland has? And I don't really see anybody, Tone, to be quite honest with you. Because when I look at CJ, I think CJ helps them. Absolutely, I think he helps them. But I mean, does he help them more than Seth Curry and Tobias Harris? Does he help them more than Tobias and Shake Milton? Does he help them more? Does Norman Powell help them more? I don't know if this deal works for Philadelphia. Now,
I think what it I think what they would have to at Philadelphia, what they would have to think is, all right, if we don't have Ben now, right? So what are we lacking that Ben? What does Ben give us? Ben gives us playmaking and defense. Okay, and some interior scoring.
I mean, he does average 16 a game, so that's
So he gives them, gives us interior scoring. So what can I get from Portland that would give me playmaking? It might be three players that make up the one, right? But give me playmaking, defense. And I know you say they're good on defense, but they're missing their best defender, maybe, or second best defender in Ben Simmons. So playmaking, defense, and inside scoring. Is there someone on Portland that gives us that? The answer is no. So it's like, okay, well, then how can we become a deeper team? Right? That's the other alternative. Do they buy into the fact that, okay, we like Seth, right? We like Tobias Harris, but those guys aren't superstars either. Is CJ McCollum, I don't know, Norman Powell and Larry Nance Jr. I just threw in a name. Or there's a guy you like there. I forget his name. What's that guy you like there? Anthony Simons.
Yeah, Simons.
Do those guys make up in terms of depth what we're losing from a star player? If their answer is yes, then they make the trade and everybody gets what they want. If their answer is no, which historically we've seen since they've started to trade him, their answer is no, right? Like they want, I think they asked Toronto for, we want Pascal Siakam, OJ Anunoby, and Fred VanVleet, right? And three first round picks.
Not serious.
And throw in the CN Tower too for anyone in Toronto, you'll know. And obviously that is, so if they're going to say, sure, we'll give you Ben, but then you got to give us, Dame, CJ, and that defeats the purpose. So it's funny, we talk about it and Dame wants it. I get it. But I'm looking at the rosters and I'm agreeing with you. I'm like, I don't know what they give up unless Philadelphia finally says something is better than nothing. Right. So forget about making their team, forget about a star. Do they say having CJ, Norman Powell, 2-3 first round picks, is that better than nothing? Because right now they have nothing. He's not playing. So that might be the only way they get convinced to do it.
Do we even take it as far, Tone, to get a third team involved in this?
That might be another situation. That might be another one. Who's an interior kind of scoring defender, playmaker that makes sense for them?
Can we get a third team involved in this where we can call up New Orleans and ask for Valanciunas to Philadelphia, Norman Powell, and CJ to.
Wow. I don't like Valanciunas next to Embiid, but I guess maybe off the bench.
That doesn't work neither. Nope, we can't do that neither. No, I don't like that neither. Now that I think about it, because that's clogging things up. No, so that's not going to work neither. So take New Orleans off the table. But we'd have to get a third team involved.
Yeah, I think you're right. There might be another,
because for what Portland has, I know we need to get. I know we want to move off of Ben, but it has to make sense too, Tom. I'm not just going to hand him over just because, he's problematic for my roster. It also has to make sense for me too. So I think we may have to get another team involved.
So let's fast forward. Let's end this with this question. They figure it out. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's use CJ, Norman Powell, and Larry Nance Jr. and a couple of first round picks. They move them. Ben Simmons comes over. Just Ben for now. How does that Ben, Lillard, now I guess Nurkic, Simon, how does that team now look? How does Lillard and Simmons, how do you see that even working? Like they're playing together?
Well, I do think that it helps Dame defensively, because it takes Dame off the hook from having to deal with Chris Paul. It takes him off the hook from having to deal with Steph, Shea Alexander. When I think about the better guards in the Western Conference that he has to see regularly, I think that takes Dame off the hook from that, because now that's Ben Simmons who'll have to deal with, just in the Western Conference alone, those guys like Murray, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, the better guards.
Right. Even a Westbrook,
Westbrook,
who I know you're not putting there, but I'd rather someone else have to run up and down the court with him at 100 miles an hour than me. So yeah,
D'Angelo Russell, even a solid guard in the Western Conference. That takes Dame off the hook. and that lets Dame focus primarily on being who he is. Now, offensively, I think that he would help them because Ben Simmons, contrary to popular belief, he is a downhill transition player. Now, I think it'll take him off the basketball a little bit more, and I think he could focus more on being a more all-around player offensively. I think he could focus on being a better passer. I think he could focus on being a better rebounder offensively. I think he could focus on a lot of those different things. So I think that helps in that aspect. I think it does help Dame offensively and defensively. So,
all right, yeah, no, I'll be honest. I don't think it works. I see what you're saying from a defensive standpoint. It takes him off those defenders. I agree with you. Defensively, it helps Lillard focus on his offensive game, which has struggled, at least in the early part of the season. He's starting to come around, but it started to. But listen, who has the ball in their hands?
Dame.
Well, if you have Ben Simmons, who has the ball in their hands?
Dame.
Ben is. Do you want Simmons playing off the ball?
No, I really
he can't
don't.
shoot, so he has to have the ball in his head. Like that's if you're going to play to his. This is why, if I can compare it, why I didn't like Westbrook. I like Westbrook as a player. I don't like him alongside James because what do they both have to do? They both have to have the ball in their hands to get the offense going. That's their way of doing things. They don't play. Neither one of them neither one of them play off ball. Neither one of them are okay playing off ball. So if Lillard needs the ball in his hands and Ben Simmons, he's at his best when he has the ball in his hands, right? When he's driving, dishing, going inside. Well, now you're basically saying, hey, Ben's going to run the point. He's going to be the main ball handler. He's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to dictate what you get. And Lillard, you're going to move basically to if I use traditional, to the scoring guard, shooting guard. And, just, spot up, shoot some threes, or on occasion, he'll kick it to you in the corner or whatever. And, you can play some ISO or pick and roll. Oh, that's not best for Dame. That doesn't work in Dame's style of offense. So while I agree defensively, it helps, I think it takes away from their offensive game. So as much as and we don't even know, do we know for sure that Dame said this? I don't know. I didn't hear him say it. So
I got that from Shams, and I only on Twitter, I follow Shams and I follow Woj. If I don't hear it from Woj or Shams, it's nonsense to me. So other than that, I'm not listening to nobody else.
So yeah, and I'm with you. So again, because it came from a reliable source, that's why we're having this conversation. I don't think it makes them better. Yeah. And when I think of the 3 pieces at least that they're going to have to give up, I don't think it makes the team better. So now I've taken away from my best player's offensive game, his strength. I've helped him defensively, but I've taken away from his offense. I'm taking pieces away from the team, which makes me overall a lesser team. I don't like it. Right? I think there's other places. I'll tell you. I know I bring up Toronto a lot, but I'll tell you. There was a floating around Fred VanVleet for Ben Simmons. I like that one a lot better because they need a guy who can take the ball in his hands all the time and run that offense. That's a great situation. I think that's better. Not that I don't like Fred VanVleet, but I think Ben Simmons being a bigger defender type of guy who's not going to take as many shots. I think that's a better fit. I think, heck, I won't say that team, but there's other situations where I think they don't have a ball dominant superstar where he makes more sense. I don't think it's Portland.
I actually like him, and I actually like Ben in a situation where he's the guy. So Orlando, New Orleans, a team like that where he's the guy, and they're starting the offense, not just the offense, where he has the ball in his hands.
What do you think of him in Sacramento? Depending on what they have to give up, I think I like him in Sacramento too.
If you had to give up Fox, Halliburton, or Mitchell, I don't mind that. Those are the kind of situations that I think would be best for him.
Cleveland's playing well now, but Cleveland, like I know you're worried about Sexton, and no, not Cleveland. No, not on that one.
You're not interested.
They're not interested in that. I'm just trying to think of other teams where it would make sense. I'd like to, I'd like him to be the first pick for the new Seattle Supersonics, if we could bring and then build a team around him there.
We absolutely, we need basketball back in Seattle, Tone. Yes, we do.
We do. So let's end it on that and remind everybody, if you've watched this, then we're an hour in. Hit the subscribe button, comment, like, share this stuff. It's good stuff. And don't forget to check us out Friday, Fluent to Chill NFL edition. And we had another, like, I mean, I think we only got to 25% of the questions on our TikTok live on Monday, but it's 8 p.m. Get there early. I just started at the top and I worked through the questions. So, and same on Chilltown Hoops. You can go on either one. We bounce back and forth between the questions in our comment section. And that's it for this week. However, so until next week,
take it light or take it.